It's entitled The Conservative-Liberal Impasse. There are those who say that politics is not a liberal versus conservative matter of unmovable ideologies, principles, and convictions. But this is not true. During the 1970s, political conservatives have managed to frame the arguments in their terms and set the agenda in the liberal versus conservative mold. In Rush Limbaugh's mind, moderates and independents are fence-sitters, and liberals are a gutless lot and lack courage. Conservatives are true, clean, good, and can't be compromised. To Limbaugh, there is only one way, his way. Is it any wonder, then, why people view conservatives as fascists? In politics, there is no right or wrong. There are benefits for the least or the mass of our society. Politics is a battle of ideas. These ideas are put into practice by force of fiat, majority rule, the soldier, the vote, propaganda, or incrementally. Under ideal conditions, liberal and conservative dispositions would act on each other as a check and a balance to get things done. But today's conservative feels threatened on all sides and at all levels of what he perceives as a liberal society. He feels the liberal has had his way for too long, and now it's the conservative's time to govern. Without evidence or proof, the conservative has faith in his beliefs, convictions, and principles. The true conservative believes that innovation is the work of crackpots and charlatans and should be greeted with extreme hostility. If this is true, then why wasn't Newt Gingrich and his revolution being run out of Washington? Something isn't right here. It is admitted that at times conservatives have embraced the quaint and the ridiculous. Newt Gingrich and his threats of shutting down the government should heed the words of Winston Churchill. Never yield to force or the apparently overwhelming might of the enemy. Governing by unproven principles leads to impasse. This might be an example of R. Emmett Terrell Jr.'s unintelligent and stupid conservatives. Lack of absolutes, principles, and convictions is very disturbing to conservatives. Rush Limbaugh sickeningly touts his convictions and principles, but he has failed to obey his Bible and prove all things and hold fast that which is good. There is no proof that any dearly held conservative conviction or principle is true. Conservatives lack imagination and literary talent. Conservatism's two biggest literary lights, Rush Limbaugh and Newt Gingrich, didn't write their respective books. They are literary phonies. And in Congress, we had a phony revolution. True conservatives can't be revolutionaries. True conservatives trust conventions, the actual to the possible. Conservatives are parochial. There is and was No revolution on behalf of conservatives. What we had was repackaged old and discredited conservative ideology, now given new life by political force. Conservatives lie when they say they want to expand the economic pie, or as George W. Bush says, make the pie bigger. They actually want to expand the portion devoted to the rich and shrink the rest. Civilization and governments were not entered into to benefit the strong and the well-to-do. Governments were created to benefit the many, not the few. In America, we, the people, are the ultimate reservoir of power. Since the 1920s and Andrew Mellon, we, the people, have not benefited from United States tax policies. Our tax system favors business and the rich. Today, corporations regard tax breaks as income. These policies don't increase production or put more people to work. Rush Limbaugh calls himself the doctor of democracy. But he is not of the people. He is not a populist. Rush Limbaugh is an ass-kisser for business. He's a corporate shill. The conservative character structure wallows in mysticism. This allows for weird religious ideas. Rush Limbaugh believes God doesn't make mistakes. If this is true, why two covenants in the Bible? Why the fall of Lucifer, who was created perfect, but then became competitive and ambitious? Lucifer was unsatisfied with his earthly throne. He sought to dethrone God. If God doesn't make mistakes, why the flood? And how about all the times God had to change his plans due to the backsliding of ancient Israel? Sorry, Rush. God does make mistakes. The convictions and principles of conservatives are their Achilles heel. Convictions and principles, to be able to guide living reality, must be based in reality. Conservatives mistake tradition for truth. It's said that conservatives wish to preserve the founders' creation. Evolution is left out of the equation. The founders believed in slavery and that women shouldn't have the right to vote. The founders believed the rich could represent the poor and middle class in Congress. The founders never envisioned the Industrial Revolution. To preserve the creation of the founders is to deny growth, changing reality, and societal evolution. Stupid conservatives confuse pedantry with brilliance. This is what went on in Congress in 1994 and today. Back then, Newt Gingrich's book, To Renew America, was supposed to be filled with innovative ideas and policies. It wasn't. It was filled with repackaged and discredited conservative claptrap. Conservatives are liars and natural propagandists. They would like to destroy the United States government and, in a socialistic manner, would have it run like a factory. They don't believe F.A. Hayek, who said that there is no incompatibility in principle between the states providing greater security in this way, Social Security and health care, and the preservation of individual freedom. Conservatives constantly feed us the supply side credo that supply creates its own demand. Murray Rothbard says demand stems from purchasing power. Supply-siders fail to admit that tax cuts push up interest rates. The problem is simple. Error can be contested. Faith is impregnable. We can't govern by faith. The conservatives in Congress tell us our programs to benefit the poor have failed. Yet the poor, as a percentage of the population, dropped by from 22% in 1959 to 13% in 1989. This was clearly due to income redistribution practices. The conservative fawners for business in Congress don't tell us that real wages declined during the Reagan era. They will not tell us that our top tax rate is lower than the bottom rate in other industrialized countries. They won't tell us that we're not taxed too much. The fact is, our wages are too damn low. At every level, except at the margins, we are underpaid in this country. Conservatives rarely talk about the economy on an abstract level. They will talk about welfare mothers and seniors dragging our economy down. They always put a human face on the economy in order to play to negative human nature. What they won't say is that a healthy economy is one where the masses have a lot of money to spend. Every tax fix in the last 70 years has benefited the rich. All these benefits concentrated wealth at the top, and it took it out of the hands of the masses. The masses outnumber the rich, and they outspend the rich. Catering to the masses leads to expanded production and more jobs. Concentrating wealth at the top leads to a contracted economy and less jobs. Our auto industry is an example of what not to do to succeed in business. Cars today are too expensive. The price of most cars could be cut in half, and the companies would still make profits. This country's economic problems are not government spending and too much regulation. Our problems are ones of waste, bad management, misallotment of funds. It's estimated that over $150 billion in taxes aren't even collected. That figure today is somewhere about $350 billion. New Dealers like Franklin D. Roosevelt and Louis D. Brandeis knew that in times of stress, experimentation and change on behalf of the disadvantaged was necessary. President Woodrow Wilson understood that the obligation of the government is to promote the general interest. What general interest is served in cutting the taxes of the wealthy when none of this creates even one job? John Fahey said, "When the public cannot obtain the best possible service at the lowest possible cost, the advantages of private ownership disappear." The fiscal gluttony of the 1980s and now the 2000s unproductively did then and will transfer wealth abroad and to the few. Until we recognize these simple economic truths, we can never improve our economy. Are we going to continue listening to the fiscal orthodoxy which allowed Sputnik in the 1950s? Or are we going to continue taking from the poor and middle class and giving to the rich? Will we call for proof instead of faith and traditional values? There was no real economic growth during the Reagan administration, and that is his legacy. Are we going to throw caution to the wind and believe the Newt Gingriches of this country when they claim successful leaders must be ready to gamble everything? Sorry, Newt. Why don't you and your ilk just gamble with your own lives and own money? America doesn't need to be renewed by the Newt Gingriches of this country. It needs people like you, meaning Newt Gingrich, to keep their mystical noses out of our business. The U.S. is the largest market in the world. What we need is for the United States to be the biggest seller in the world. Enough with the imports. We need to start exporting. And, Newt Gingrich and your ilk, real job creation is not Amway and Mary Kay Cosmetics. Conservative Dick Armey said that democracy is a damned inconsiderate system. Yet, with the next breath, he'll say something like, power resides with the individual citizen. But all lobbyists know this is a lie. Wealth creates options. Today, we are working more hours than in the 1960s. Yet high prices make our money worth less. Sound economics is not what mirrors the needs of the rich. All but suck-ups and ass-kissers for business interests know that corporations have an instinct for monopoly and that politicians become captives, then agents of their opposition. Ideas have consequences. In lobbying, vested interests gain at the expense of the masses. President Woodrow Wilson considered business lobbyists dangerous. Rush Limbaugh, Newt Gingrich, George W. Bush, feel free to attack the economically disadvantaged, because they don't vote. 80% of all American families earn less than $50,000 a year. So why are we always giving away the store to the rich? Economics is important. We can't sit back and call it boring. Because of our lack of understanding of economics, Ronald Reagan fooled us in the 1980s. We couldn't fight against faith and traditional family values. But now we know better. We know how today to defeat a conservative. Today, actually in 1994, Newt Gingrich wanted to save Medicare by destroying it. Just like George Bush today wants to save Social Security by destroying it. And all to pay another tax cut for the rich. Will we be taken in again? Our economy cannot grow and expand with so much money concentrated at the top. We have too much corporate welfare today. Tax breaks don't improve productivity or create one job. There are essentials in any economy. These are food, shelter, and clothing. These drive an economy. Information and service industries are not essentials. Information may be essential after bellies are filled, bodies are clothed, and heads are protected from the elements. We must stop falling for greedy, conservative rhetoric. What our economy needs is goods and purchasing power. The liberal conservative impasse will disappear when we understand that conservatives are mystics, and therefore they cannot govern living reality. Their traditional values are garbage. What they spew forth from their mouths are lies and propaganda. And it hurts you and me. The end.
Hi, this is William Morrow. Are you one of those people who join a health club, and after they have your big, overpriced annual membership, you notice that you're on your own with little or no results even after all the promises? Then the website Personal Trainer is for you.
Thank you very much, William H. Morrow III.
So you lost another argument with a conservative, right-wing Republican. He talked over you. He screamed and yelled. He brought out the Bible. He thumped it. He quoted scripture to you. You were lost because you came at him with facts. Nothing but facts. And you expected that would make you look good. That would make you win the argument, but it didn't. You know why you lost the argument? You know why you're going to lose your next argument? Because you don't read Censored. Censored, the 30-year-old newsletter that shows you how to defeat a conservative. Read Censored, and you'll have all the ammunition you need. Every time you get into an argument with a right-wing conservative, so-called Christian. Censored. That's all you need. Read it and defeat a conservative.
Greetings, listeners. Let me speak to you for a moment about the foundation of our entire organization, Newsletters Censored, It was founded by our mentor, the Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman, in 1977. It discusses the 5 taboos of American life: politics, religion, health, human sexuality, and child rearing. You won't find anything like this in the mainstream media and the press. It reveals the kind of truth that most people are afraid to hear. Can you handle it? We are living in the end times, so in order to defeat a conservative and save America, you need Newsletter Censored. Go to www.newslettercensored.com, click on the printable order form page, and with your gift to support this work, get your free annual subscription. This is James P. Madonna of Megalife 21, the hardest hitting internet talk radio station on the planet.